Hey, everybody, welcome to an awesome talk by Sam Genovese. I would first like to ask if everyone's okay with being recorded for a documentation purposes. Cool. If anyone has a problem, please let me know. I'm just going to read a little bit about Sam. It seems like everyone here knows him, but so maybe this might be a little bit dry. But Sam studied MFA, got his MFA in experimental electronic music and recording from Mills College. Studied with Pauline Oliveros, Maggi Payne, Molly Holm, John Bischoff, Chris Brown, James Fye, and Roscoe Mitchell. He combines image and sound, story and experimentation, emotion and texture through the use of cinematic language and expansive sound exploration. Sam has performed and or exhibited video and sound works in various places in the US, Europe, and Japan. And Sam's going to give a little talk about what he's been working on and a latest project, and I'm going to hush.
Okay, so I'm going to start a timer in the new music style for 10 minutes, and I'm going to share some slides that we worked out here. Yes, yes. All right, and can you still hear me? Just
yeah.
Okay, great. So hello everybody, thanks for coming. I'm gonna very quickly go through in under 10 minutes some previous work so that we can chat about the movie and any other things that come up. So so I'm talking to you today as a sound artist, a composer, and a filmmaker. And my sound work is very much influenced by my love of cinema, specifically European cinema and experimental cinema. A lot of the compositional decisions I make come out of film techniques or film ideas in terms of cutting and pacing and all that sort of thing. And that's largely because before I got into sound work, I was very interested in studying film, and I needed techniques to bring to the table to work with sound, and the film stuff worked. So installation, sometimes I do installation stuff. The last thing I did was this piece that was part of a much larger piece at the Jewish Museum at Berlin. And actually Pamela, who was with us, also had a piece in that really neat exhibition by Misha Kubal. The sound for it refuses to play, so I can't share the sound today. The album work, instead of playing samples of sound, which are all available on the website and Bandcamp and all that business, I thought I would just sort of blow through these and give you the sort of the aesthetic framework or the jumping off point for these particular works. So this one was Sonic DNA. The parts of the first piece fed into the second piece, and the second piece seeded the grains, if you will, for the third piece. I was sort of thinking in a DNA, sort of a granular synthesis framework for the locust in your mouth. Night Path, directly influenced by cinema. Again, here I was exploring the pacing choices informed by Bela Tarr and Andrei Tarkovsky, particularly Tarr, who is known for his work as a slow cinema filmmaker. This next album, I was into maximum minimalism, easy for me to say. How little could I do, and then how much could I do with that little bit? And the next one, Hive Crush, this terrible looking slide. This one, I really tried to combine some of the techniques that I had been developing with a new element, which was my buddy Tom Weeks played saxophone on this middle piece called Yellow In, Blue Out. And I wanted to see what it was like, one, to work with another musician, at least for one track, and two, how I would incorporate what he did. And that's how that one came about. This record is all about the idea of transmissions in the sky, and sending, receiving, and the noise that can come through transmissions, and various kinds of translation. You know, as a signal is translated into different forms and then decoded, and that sort of thing. And then finally, that brings us to entanglementing from 2019. This one was of course way different because it was my first opera, and here I am working with very loosely, very much an enthusiast of things like physics and whatnot, and not you know, I'm not a scientist, but jumping off with this idea from quantum mechanics about pairs of particles being entangled. You know, entanglementing deals a lot with in the libretto and in its motifs with twins and twinning and that sort of thing. And so that plays a role in the sound design, and that also plays a role in the words. The new record coming out in April is called Sky Myth. This one also has a narrative starting point. Here again, you know, nocturnal ritual, solemnity and tumult, destruction and union, priestesses gather to ascend a peak where secret rites affect collective rebirth and opening glittery paths to new futures. So I had this whole story idea of these ancient witches, which is actually based in historical truth, ascending this mountain and enacting these rituals, and, you know, sort of cracking the sky open, like at the end of the movie Poltergeist, and that's what informed the compositional choices that I made and the way I designed the sound for that one. And then so I have a couple of sound samples that I'll just share with you. This first, they're all 30 seconds, so they're quick. But this first piece, this processional, is like a 35-minute piece, which is a great way to open a record, the 35-minute song. It's silly, but here's what it sounds like. So that we take a sharp turn on this second track on the record. Well, yeah, that's a lot of noise. So this next one, sorry, my tabs are going crazy over here. And then I reach for something very different. And then finally, it all wraps up with this one. And then very quickly, just to get some visual stuff in here. This is a sort of a quasi-animated series that I did a couple years ago that was concerned with slow change over time, which kind of goes back to the idea of the slow cinema and having a static image that the audience is asked to sort of look into. And so all of these images are basically a single image that evolves very slowly, and there's a soundscape to go along with that. Oh, my timer has just gone off. That was 10 minutes. And then I can just show you a quick 60 seconds of what that looks like. Or even 30 seconds. This is a music video for a piece called Larynx To Retina, which I'll just show you a quick clip of, just to get a sense of the images, the kind of images and sounds that I'm drawn to. And then that brings us to entanglementing, which, you know, it was an album first in 2019, and then almost a year ago today, I think it was maybe February 22nd of last year, we premiered it here in San Francisco. I had performed this piece a couple of times in various forms on stage, working out the kinks and whatnot, but I'd always kind of wanted to make it into a film. And so I did that with friends last year. The lion's share of it was shot by friends Sarah Kerr and Layla Weaver. You know, one of the things that I wanted to do with this too was deal with narrative in an interesting way. And so the narrative is linear, but I tried to redact a lot of the information. I mean, one of the things that I do when I'm writing a story is I like to try to see how much information I can remove and still have the story there. Try to create gaps and things. And then here are just some still images from the film. If you haven't seen it, that's my eyeball. That's me getting split into two. And that's where you can find me on the internet. So I'm going to stop sharing. And
thank you, Sam.
All right.
Hey, I'm so sorry to bring this up now. I didn't want to disrupt your flow. We did not get the moving images of Larynx To Retina in the piece prior to that. We heard the sound, which was beautiful, but we did not get to see the moving images.
Oh, bummer. All right. Well, it's they're on my website, I think.
Oh, okay.
There are links on there. But you didn't get. We got the sound though.
Yes.
Technology.
It was beautiful.
Thank you. So there you go. So yeah.
Cool. Do you mind if I ask you a couple questions, and we can open it up for everyone to ask some leading questions?
Fire away.
Fire away. Awesome. I love it. Thank you. Well, obvious question number one is, how has the pandemic and subsequent lockdown affected your artistic practice? What challenges have you faced in new creative routines, and have you learned anything new about yourself that was unclear before?
I learned I can grow my hair long. I learned that for sure. Um, yeah, Frank and I were talking before we started, and there's uh, been no live playing, and that's been a real drag. Largely because I like to go see shows, just like anybody else. Um, but also because it's fun to perform, and I am a part of a loose vocal ensemble, and we do improvised vocals and things like that, and it's a blast. So that's been a drag, to not be able to go see shows and to perform. Um, my practice is largely a solo practice, so whatever things I make at home, um, I've just been doing that. Yeah.
Cool, cool. And I have a bunch of questions, but I think looking at the list, there might be quite a few, too many here. But how about we talk about your latest piece from 2019? In your entanglementing, you opted to follow a traditionally operatic structure. What inspired you to use such a culturally canonized template for your piece?
In terms of opera, I can't say that I'm an opera fan. I sort of have a love-hate thing with opera, um, because of all its baggage and its size and its expense. Um, but I rediscovered Robert Ashley a number of years ago, maybe I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I had originally discovered him many years before that, um, through a series of films by the British filmmaker Peter Greenaway. He did a series called Four American Composers, and Robert Ashley was one of the composers featured on there. And then I kind of forgot about Robert Ashley. And then I started getting into his operas and things, and I was like, oh, this is okay. People think this is an okay way to work. And it was really interesting to me. And there was something that I wanted to explore, and not do it in the Ashley style, because his is very specific and it's very text heavy. And I'm not so interested in working in something so text heavy, but I love the idea of bringing together sound and narrative and visuals, and that's how I landed on this opera form for entanglementing. That plus my motion picture film background. I thought that was something that I could bring to bear and kind of have fun trying to do something new with it. Yeah.
I got another one about entanglementing for you. In this piece, you cleverly connect lexical semantics with bouts of noise. It's as if you are composing for the brain, or the brain itself, attention and cognition of the listener. Can you talk a little bit about this mechanism, this playing with attention span, and perhaps the listener's ability to make those connections?
Yeah. So one of the ideas that I started working with in entanglementing, and I've developed it even more in this new opera that I'm working on, that's loosely based on like Marconi and wireless communications, is this idea of writing the sound sentence with sounds and words, okay, and that one can drop out and be replaced with the other. So, for example, in entanglementing in the first act, I mean, this is a pretty harsh example, but it illustrates it, I think, pretty directly. In the first act, there's an argument that happens between the hero and his wife in the kitchen of the house. And instead of writing this very word-heavy argument that someone might do in a traditional film, for example, I chose to pare down the words to their absolute minimum, and then let the words drop away. Because what is an argument if not noise? right? And so in this example, the argument between these two people literally becomes a field of noise. And when I first performed it on the stage, I was the main character, and the wife was about an 8-foot stack of subwoofers. And we were having this conversation back and forth, and I was just screaming by the end of it into the stack of subwoofers, and the noise was feeding back. And this is an argument. For the film, if you've seen the film, this got pared down to a glass of whiskey, a sort of boiling glass of whiskey. And the sound and the noise is all still there, but the argument, the rage of this argument is contained in this whiskey and ice cubes, flopping about and swirling about. And so there, I really use the imagery to help complete the sentence. So this is the idea: is how can I write the sonic sentence and freely swap out words and sounds and images to complete the thought.
Cool, that's awesome. And I'm gonna leave it with this last question, and then open it up for anyone else who has any other questions. What role does the creative process, meditative, reflective, or contemplative, play in your musical work?
Meditative or contemplative? Well, I'll say this, is that I with the exception of like the improvised vocal stuff, but I try to think everything. It's not entirely true. I try to come up with a framework for every project, and I try to think the logic of that framework through all the way. And I did that with entanglementing, with the ideas of the from the world of particle physics of entanglementing, and then that became the idea of twins and twinning, and all these things help me build up a framework that I write to, right? And sometimes, you got to let that framework go, but I like to improvise from I forget the director who said, the best improvisation on set comes from a great script, So I feel like if I have a solid framework, then I can improvise from there. Yeah, I think I kind of answered your question. Okay.
Totally, thank you. If anyone else has any other questions, please chime on in.
Hey, cousin.
Hello, cousin.
Great to see you, finally.
Yes, I know.
Oh, you are alive. Good. Yeah, great. I have a question, actually. Even I'm not in questioning at the moment, but my question is, before you did this opera work, you were just working, no, it's not just, but you were working as a electronic musician, right? But you didn't use your voice like that, like you did in the new work. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about the switch between the big things you did before and the new one? You were not afraid to use your awesome voice?
Yeah, I was really afraid. I was really afraid, and it's something that it never occurred to me to use the voice in the electronic stuff, just because of how it is. It's a lot of it's textural and ambient, but I've always like sung around the house. I'm like a closet, singer in the shower and stuff like that. But it wasn't till when I was at Mills and I took a jazz vocal class with Molly Holm, and I got a lot of confidence in that. Singing in a group with people was fun. And then working with Molly, and she said, just like use your voice, pretend you're a great singer, like start from there and like build your confidence up. And I did, and I'm still working at it. But that gave me the confidence to try the opera. and I'm still trying. This other opera includes voice, and I'll be using my voice. And then there's not Sky Myth, which is the album that's coming out in April, but there's another album that I'm working on that'll maybe come out beginning of next year, maybe. And it's more traditional song structures, and I'm straight up singing on it. But it's all a work in progress. It's always scary to put your naked voice out there, at least for me, But you do a lot of vocal stuff, so I mean,
yeah, talking every day,
No, come on, you're singing and sounding.
Yeah, but bringing back to that big opera piece, I mean, it's a really long jam, if I can say that. It's a really long piece.
Yeah.
How did you organize your voice to be that clear all the time? That's strong all the time. Did you just drink all the time ginger tea, or how did you manage that?
Well, that's funny. Yeah, I was going to say that's just the magic of recording it in the studio and being able to do multiple takes. But come to think of it, I did record that in like a single afternoon, like in a single in the corner of my bedroom with blankets hung up and every other thing, yeah, I don't know.
You don't know. It's a secret.
I don't know. And it's one of those things. Like when I listen to it, I'm like, oh yeah, that maybe doesn't sound so good. Like I could have sang that better. Maybe I should have done another take on that. But I gave myself this deadline to finish it, and I was like, whatever ends up on the recorded on the record that's what it is. That's the document of this time. And hopefully there's enough going on with the rest of the soundscape and the music and whatnot that it completes the sentence for me.
Okay, great.
Whatever it is,
Thank you.
Not ginger tea.
Hmm?
Whatever it is it's not the ginger tea.
It's not the ginger.
I drink a lot of it, and it has no impact on my voice. That's why I don't do operas.
Well, I don't know that I do either, really. I mean, it's something.
My question is related. On Sky Myth, your description is totally connected to this narrative, and yet the excerpts you played for us don't have any voice on it. So does voice occur? Or are you thinking of the narrative as just a structural framework that organizes your compositional choices? Or do you invite the listeners to engage with the narrative by providing a program note? Or what's the connection between the narrative and the experience?
Yeah, so there is no voice on this record at all. And the narrative was my conceptual framework, my jumping off point for deciding what is the whole arc of the record going to be. Well, now I have this loose story idea that I can pin ideas to, and I can return to when I'm lost for what to do. And then that's the whole arc of the record. And then each of the individual pieces are sort of function as scenes in this story in my head. And then so I know what the arc of each individual scene is. I know what the arc of each individual musical piece is. And then I return to it. This is I'll read you something. This is on the website, but I composed this, talking about how I like a framework. Since I was dealing with witches or priestesses, I had the ideas of spells in mind. And so I will just sort of read this as written. Computer is priestess. I composed SkyMyth into a process of software systems and electronic effects, acting as a kind of spell, transmuting my musical ideas into new forms that I would then respond to. Some systems ran freely, constantly producing new results, while others reliably spoke back, but in a new language. Trading traditional song structures for direct monolithic blocks of sound, these compositions free the listener to walk around inside the experience, making their own narrative and non-narrative contributions. So my narrative is my narrative that I needed to sort of get the thing done, right? But yeah, there are no words. So, you know, the hope is that, you know, like with any musical piece, that whoever's listening to it brings their own stories and their own ideas to it. My story about the processional up the mountain and whatnot doesn't need to be your story, but that's what I needed to do to make it. Yeah. Anybody else? Just me? Yeah.
So I'll ask another. So since you say you think of them as songs, are you thinking of them in terms of familiar strophic structures, chorus, verse, or something like that? I know you draw a lot of influence from cinema. So are you thinking about montage cutting in cinematic terms, or are you thinking in really in song structures?
Yeah, it's more in cinematic terms, and I think cross-cutting is a good example, and also also sort of smash cuts into new areas entirely. You know, when you watch a film, it's once you're involved in the story, and maybe you have a cut. I'm looking right now out on a city street, and then you cut to a jungle scenario, and you just accept it, you know. And I like these ideas of going from really sort of unrelated sounds in a way. And what does that hard cut do? It's almost like a jump cut in a French New Wave film or something like that, you know. And how can I jump cut from one part to another, you know? But there's not like a traditional like a pop form to these pieces. Although I think about that too. I call them songs because to me, I don't know. I use that word, and I get in trouble for it sometimes. And people go, "Well, it's not a song; it's a piece." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. It's musical. I can tap my feet to it. Yeah." But this new record, I was looking for new ways to work, and so composing into these software effects chains and whatnot produce things that I wouldn't have come up with on my own, you know. And then I could take those elements that the machinery spit back to me, and then recombine them, and that's what I did. I kind of wanted like a sort of a writing partner in a way, you know. I'm always wanting to like work with someone. It's such a solo thing, especially when I'm working primarily on the computer. So it stretched me a little bit. Yeah.
I'm wondering. Oh, I don't know if do I have sound?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I unplugged from an audio interface and moved across the room, and sometimes that throws things off. But I'm wondering about this idea of solitary work versus working with somebody, because I think I'm very similar to you in that regard. So much of the things I do, I'm doing all the parts of it myself. And so I'm wondering if you just have any thoughts about what happens when you pull another person into the process, and versus like solving all of the problems on your own.
On your own. Yeah, it's sort of a drag sometimes to have to solve all the problems on your own, and you just want to turn to someone and go, you know, just give me a beat, and you know, let me, you know, I'll work on this. You know, when we were making the film, I couldn't shoot it and be in it at the same time. And my friends Sarah Kerr and Layla Weaver are both accomplished visual artists in their own right, and I trusted them. And you know, we talked about what I was aiming for and the kind of look and feel, and then I just let them run with it, and it felt really good to do that. It felt really good to do that, and in fact, there's a scene in the film with the two twin children in the bedroom, and I didn't know the kids. We rolled up to their house and met the parents that day, and the kids were getting along with Sarah and Layla really well. And I said, all right, well, let's just close the door. I'll leave, and you guys just shoot it how you think it needs to be shot, you know. And I totally trusted them to do that. And there's no director credit on the film because I felt like we kind of all worked it out in real time as we were shooting and making it. So that felt really good. You know, in terms of the music, I don't know. I would love to work with other musicians more, and it's something that I'm trying to do with this new project. With it's going to have more voice on it. Is try to bring people in and see what happens, and not be too attached to my ideas going into it, you know, and really try to make it a collaborative, give and take sort of process. Because I do enjoy that a lot, you know. Yeah. But I don't know, working solo is hard. I don't know. You know, because sometimes two people say, oh, but it's great, you don't have arguments about how to do this or that. But you know, I found that, you know, sometimes that friction is great, and you end up in new areas, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the conversation about the making, so that's a fun part, I think.
Anybody else got any leading, interesting, exciting questions?
That's it.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for sharing your work and for giving a talk.
Thank you. Thank you for leading this, and thank you to Ansha and Armadillo Gallery for giving a home for the film for the month of February. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much. Bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.